Hey guys, welcome back. It's Aaron here. This is lesson number 2 in a series of beginner guitar lessons. I figured that you're not going to get too far until you know how to tune your guitar. So lesson number 2 is going to be just a simple, comprehensive guide on how to tune specifically an acoustic guitar. I might do a follow-up to show you how to tune an electric guitar. There's not a lot of difference, but obviously an electric guitar needs to be plugged in to hear it. An acoustic guitar makes a sound, an audible sound, without being plugged in. So now there's a number of different ways that you can tune a guitar. I have decided that the most accessible way generally for most people to be able to just jump right in and tune their guitar up so that they can start playing it so that it sounds good. So it sounds good. Let's cover that just to begin with. You know, when we play a chord, let's say a D chord on the guitar, each one of these strings has to be the right tension so they're tuned in so that that sounds nice. That's kind of what we're working towards. So I've just tuned this guitar and that sounds pretty. But if we take, let's say, this tuning peg and we make that a slightly different tuning, so this B string now is in different tension, and we play the chord, that's what we're trying to avoid. That doesn't sound very nice at all. So when we're tuning, that's what we're working towards, so that when we play a chord or we play a melody, that those notes are all in tune with each other and that sounds good. So I'm just going to... Now I've got a clip-on tuner, which most of you, eventually, it's worthwhile doing. This lesson I'm going to show you uses an app on your phone. I've decided that that's probably a better way to do it because you've all got a phone, you can all download this app and use it. There's quite a lot of different apps, obviously. I'm going to show you this one in particular that I think is graphically very easy to use, very intuitive, easy to understand, easy to get into. So yeah, that's the one that I've chosen. But with this clip-on tuner, obviously you've got to go out and purchase one. You probably don't want to get anything too cheap and nasty. It might not last long. You might not want to go with the top of the range tuner, but maybe you're looking at $20 or $30. But to begin with, we use the app on the phone. So this is the string that I've detuned. Now, on what's called the machine head of a guitar, because there's all this machinery and it's the head of the guitar, this being the body and this the neck, so therefore this is the head. We've got tuning pegs essentially, and we can turn them one way and we will get a higher pitch, turn it the other way and we lower the pitch. So I lowered the pitch of this string to show you how that would sound bad. So I'm going to bring it back up, and I'm looking at my clip-on tuner at this point, and we just fix this string up. So, wrong peg, don't make that mistake. So I'm increasing the tension and I'm watching the pretty coloured lights on my clip-on tuner, and it tells me when I'm nearly there, and we're there. And also this string that I just accidentally detuned then. So now we're back to tune and we're back to sounding nice, which is what we're trying to achieve. So obviously you've got to learn to tune your guitar so that when you start learning some chords and you start running some scales and playing some melodies and these sorts of things, it's important that your guitar's in tune so that you sound nice, because otherwise you'd be probably quite disheartened at what you're doing and you're trying to learn these things and you're like, just the underlying feeling will be, it just doesn't sound very good. Alternatively, if you tuned nicely and you put the hard work into forming up a chord and know the right strings to play, you'll be like, that sounds pretty. So that's what we're working towards. So now we covered that these are your tuning pegs. They can be turned one way to make the pitch deeper, and turned another way to make the pitch higher. And we're trying to to get that at the right point so that it's in tune. Now, another thing to know is there's a convention around what notes these different strings are tuned to, and it's E, A, D, G, B, E. Now that's called standard tuning or concert pitch on a guitar. There's other ways you can tune a guitar, but generally that's how a guitar is tuned, and if you're learning to play guitar, that's really where you would want to start. So there's a saying, or I think it's called a mnemonic or whatever, for the notes of these strings, and it's the first letter of each of these words to form the phrase Eddie ate dynamite, goodbye Eddie. I usually don't remember those, but that one stuck in my head quite easily. So you kind of will need to know that to tune your guitar, because we're going to tune that to E. So, you know, these letters are the notes. In music, we have notes from A to G. So A, B, C, D, E, F, G. Once we get to G, we start again. So, you know, that's your beginner bit of music theory. It's kind of relevant at this point to know, because that's why each one of these strings has got this letter name. It's a musical note, and each string has been assigned a musical note. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to incorrectly tune my guitar in a second. I'm going to tune a little bit lower, a little bit higher, a little bit lower, alternating through the 6 strings of my guitar, so that each string is tuned slightly incorrectly, and then we're going to just go through each string and we'll have a look at how we tune that up. So I'm going to fire up this app, which I will have the link for this app in the description, so that you'll be able to follow that link and download it. I believe this app does have a cost to it, which is around $5 or something like that. There's probably free ones for sure. I liked this one so much, found it easy enough to use and intuitive enough that I figured the $5 was money well spent. If I find myself at someone else's place and they're like, oh, can you tune my guitar? Well, then I've got my tuner with me. This one, not so much. I don't always have my clip-on tuner with me. Definitely not. So for me, and if you are serious about continuing playing guitar, maybe it's worth the $5. Otherwise, you might need to look at a different app. But generally, once you follow through what we're doing here, you'll likely have a good enough idea that you could use a different app and follow what it's showing you to be able to tune your guitar in a similar way to what we're showing here. So I've got this app fired up now. Now we've got this low E string. Now that's an interesting thing I'll just touch on quickly. This string is up high, and it gets referred to as the low E string. And you would think, well, this string is E as well, but that's the high E string, but it's lower physically. It's to do with the pitch of the sound. This is a lower or a deeper pitch. This is a higher pitch. So this string here is often referred to as the high E, this string the low E. So we're going to start with always the low E and work our way down. Part of the reason is these strings will take up more tension because they're thicker and stronger than these strings here. So as we work our way down, a lot of the tension, which slightly bows the neck of the guitar, very, very slightly, if we take up that tension early, then as we work our way down to these strings that don't take much tension, they're more likely to retain their tuning. So look, long story short, we start with the lower strings. So I'm going to turn my tuning peg on the low E string. You might be able to hear that hear the drop in pitch. It's become lower or deeper in tone. Now I moved on to the next string, which is the A string. I'm going to go the opposite way, and that'll become apparent why I'm alternating between these two in a moment, to show you how you address whether you're trying to tune a guitar up to pitch or whether you're trying to tune a string, down to pitch. So we'll cover those alternately as we move through. So the A, just increasing that just a little bit in pitch. While I say just a little bit, that it makes me think about this, not that I want you to be afraid of this, but if you put too much tension in a string, it eventually will snap, and you don't want to do that because you've got to replace that string. And I usually buy strings in a full set, so just be careful. And on this app, by the way, one of the reasons why it is so good is it very obviously tells you whether you need to increase the tension or lower the tension. So once you've gone over the tension that it needs to be, it's very obvious graphically that that's where you are, and if you're paying attention, you won't keep continuing to add tension to the string and then potentially break the string. So we've done our low E is out of tune, our A string is out of tune, our D string, like our E string, we're going to turn our tuning peg down, so it's a little bit lower in pitch now. So when we correct this one, we're going to have to tighten the string and bring it back in pitch. Now, I intuitively know, because of how many times I've turned these pegs, which way makes it decrease in tension, which makes the pitch lower, and which way I need to turn it to do the opposite, increase tension and make the pitch higher. I know that just through pretty much muscle memory. The way to learn that, easiest way, listen. That's an increase in pitch. That's a drop in pitch. Okay. So that was our E, our A, our D. Now we're down here to this peg here, which controls the tension on our G string. So I believe we lowered, so let's increase the tension slightly on our G string. And then we'll move to our next tuning peg, which controls the tension in our B string. And what do we do? Lowered, hired, lowered, hired. So we'll lower the tension of our B string. And then to our next tuning peg, which controls the tension of our high E string. I think higher. Whatever, doesn't really matter. We're going higher. Right. So now, this is completely out of tune. And the effect that takes is when we hold the D chord that we started with and we play it, we might want to have some earplugs in, because it's going to sound terrible. And so that's why we're going to tune a guitar. So, to the app, which I'm going to pop on the screen for you to see. Now, it's set to the low E already. It's, works on touch. If I touch the A, that's how it looks, and then that's prepared to tune the A string. So we want to start with the low E string, as we said. And if you see the red line and that white peak there is telling us where that string is tuned to currently, and the two green lines is where we're trying to get to. So to move in that direction, we need to increase the tension, because this low E string is one of the strings that we lowered. We decreased the tension, we decreased the frequency. So we're going to tighten it steadily. And what we're going to do is we're going to pick the string. Now, I'll introduce you to another little concept. Maybe it's a little advanced, but it's worth mentioning. Where you want your string to be tuned to is at the volume that you would pick while you're playing normally. So you don't want to do that. You don't want to tune your guitar that way because that's not how you're going to play it. You don't want to do this and pick it really, really gently because that's not how you're going to play it. And it will. See how that affects where that red line is? If I pick it really gently. But if we pick it, see, it's kind of in between. We want that volume. So maybe you've seen someone tuning a guitar before and they're constantly picking the string. That's because straight after picking the string, it's at its peak volume, and it's at the volume that you would be heard at, and that's where we want that tuned. So we've got our left hand sitting on the correct tuning peg. So this is the tuning peg for the low E, and we're going to pick it, and we're going to continue to pick it, and we're going to look at the tuner. We're going to look at that red line, and then we're going to start to turn the tuning peg, and we're going to watch as that red line excuse me, starts to move further and further to the right and closer to the two green lines. And our objective is to get it there and no further. So we're getting closer. If we go too far, not the end of the world, but ideally, and that's us. Now, if you notice, as the volume trails off, see if it slips out of tune. Don't worry about that, because as the volume trails off, that's not what you're hearing generally or a listener is hearing generally. The volume that they're hearing is the volume straight after being picked, because you will tend to be picking, if you're playing a melody, regularly, keeping the volume higher, because if you leave the note go, the volume trails off. So notice I've just played a little bit and that's changed that tune. And also watch the volume trails off and it finds pitch, but we can't hear that, so it's not critical. So we want to just tighten that a little bit more straight after a pick. We want it to sit in there just like that, so straight after a pick. I'm happy with that. Look, you see it's kind of sliding in and out slightly. Man, don't worry too much about it. Don't get bogged down in it. Our low E string is now tuned, so that's great. So now we're going to just tap the A on the screen of the tuner. We're going to put our left hand on the A tuning peg. Our pick is then going to find and sit just above the A string. And remember, we increase the tension on this string, so it's tuned too high. Now, rookie error is to do this and tune it. Decrease the tension, down, down, down to there. That is not how you tune a string on a guitar. You never achieve the tuning that you're looking for by lowering the pitch, by decreasing the tension. And the reason is that string tuned that way is much more likely to go out of tune when you've tuned it by decreasing the tension. It's much more likely to hold its tune if we increase the tension to find it. So if you, like we just did with the A string, we pick the string and it's too high, what we actually do is we deliberately go down here. And that might seem strange because you're like, well, we were there, you know. But we've got to approach the correct tuning from low to high because it will retain its pitch and its tune much more effectively. So we've artificially brought that pitch down. Now we'll work our way up. We're increasing the tension slowly by turning this peg in the direction that's increasing the tension. The red lines are moving to the right. Slowly and steadily continuing to pick to keep that volume at the correct playing volume. Nearly there. A little bit more tension. A little bit more. Tiny bit more. And these last little tweaks that I'm giving this tuning peg are just minute to get it to that point. Now see, that's pretty good. There's a couple of picks there, it was red straight after the pick. See that? I think it's just like, it's just tiny. So I'm being probably a little bit too picky, but that's fine. That's in tune. So just a heads up, when we get all the way to the high E string, we're going to start again, because we will increase the we'll change the tension, not always increase, because the nature of how we fiddled with it at the start. But we're going to change the tension on the neck by getting all these strings in tune. So by the time we get to the high E string, we may have in total increased the tension enough that we've just caused this tiny little bow, which will make this string a little bit lower than it was when we first tuned it. So essentially, rule of thumb, go through all your strings and tune them, and then just go through them again one more time. If they're on the money, fantastic, but just check just to make sure. So we've done our A, so we're going to touch the screen on the D, move on to the D string. So again, left hand on the tuning peg that controls the tension of the D string, and our pick just sitting on top of the D string, so it's ready to pick. Now in my first lesson, we talked about this anchoring of I anchor my pinky here. That's important. If I've got my hand floating, it's hard to keep working out exactly where that string is, or it's a little harder, right? If you've got these fingers anchored, your muscle memory tells you that distance, and you'll find it much easier to go right on that string. Oh, A string, D string. See, we're changing this distance. Anyway, D string. So you can see where the red line is. We detuned this, we lowered the pitch quite a lot. So we're here, our left hand on the tuning peg, and we're going to, if I turn this, and that's increased and it's moved to the right, I know that I'm going the right way, and that's really at a beginner stage, that's how you're going to tell. So if I'd picked it and I'd gone, oh, which way do I go? And I go, oh, hang on, that's gone the other way. Well, obviously you need to tune it, you need to go in the opposite direction. So that's how you work that out. And after you've done that only 100,000 times or so, you will just know exactly which way to do it, and it's going to make your life a bit easier. Alright, so we're increasing the tension, we're picking the string, up we go. And that's us. Our D string is now tuned. We tap the G. We're getting a roll on now. Let's keep going. So pick on top of the G string, Eddie 8 Dynamite, good, G. Hand on the tuning peg that controls the tension of the G string. Now if you get lost, it's as simple as this. So I come up to this string, follow it up over the top of the machine head nut. It's attached to this peg. So that's where we are. And oh, hang on, where's my pick go? Oh, Eddie 8 Dynamite, good. Oh, G, we're on G. Okay, good, that's where we're up to. So I've got my left hand on the correct tuning peg. I'm picking the correct string. I'm watching. Now we're too high. Well, which way do I go? Oh, no, that's the wrong way. And again, we're too high, so we're not going to tune down, because we don't do that. That string will go out of tune. So look, initially, unlike what I did with the A string, is initially I tuned it down to the A string to show you how that went. Generally what you would do is, it's too high, let's get down. Let's get below it. There we go, we're below it. Now we've got our starting point, because we're going to tune up. Alright, so I'm increasing the tension now on the G string. increasing that tension. Almost there. And that's that. That's good. It's not, I could probably get a little bit closer, but that's fine. It's green. Okay. B string. Tuning peg for the B string. Pick on the B. Eddie 8 Dynamite. Goodbye. B. Cool. Oh. So the B is already low, so we don't have to tune it down to come back up. It's already down. So we will pick and slowly add tension. Bring that string up to tension to be exactly a B. Beautiful. That's that. We've got one string to go in our first run through. So we hit the E. Now we're high. So we're too high. We need to bring it under, bring it lower in pitch so that we can bring it up to pitch so it will hold its tune. So we just do that to begin with. Just a little bit aggressively, just bring it down. Anywhere lower. You know, don't want it to be heaps lower, but that's fine. There we go. So now we start bringing the tension back up. We keep picking. We want that volume sustained at the correct volume that we would play at, so that we know our tuning is consistent with the volume that we play at. We increase the tension. We watch graphically what's going on. Almost there. There we go. That's that. Now, after a first run through, I will generally play a chord or two, just because you're just listening for, does that sound nice? Are we nearly there? Have we messed up somewhere and got something wrong? I generally play a D, a C, a slightly different shaped C than most people would play, and a G. So that's what I'll play. And that's pretty good. Like, I think that's in tune. I don't have perfect pitch by any stretch of the imagination. Perfect pitch is some people can hear a note and just, they can tune a guitar without a tuner. They know it's a little bit low, it's a little bit high. I used to play with a guy that had perfect pitch hearing. It's a gift. I don't have that, but I do recognise that sounds sweet, and that's what we're working towards. But that's our first run through, so we are just going to go back to the low E and have a look. And that's, as I said, what's happened is tuning the rest of the strings has taken away some of the tension that this string was tuned at, and it's made it a little bit lower, so it just needs that little bit more. Just bring it slightly. There we go. We'll check the A. It's had the same effect on the A string, and that's why we go through again. The D. Yeah, a little bit. It's going to go up tiny little bit. The G. The G is good, which, as you come back to these higher strings, you would expect that they probably haven't been affected by the change in tension. Back to the high E. Beautiful. Maybe just double check that one. Sweet. So now again, run some chords. We'll teach you some chords in the next lesson so that you can check these. Beautiful. We have tuned the guitar guitar. You've got that as a reference now, so you can rewind to whatever point you need to rewind. And if you have any questions at all, please just fire them to me. Now, I'm putting this up on YouTube. I'm going to probably put it on Facebook and just in local groups and things, try and get it out there to people who I think will benefit from it. I would like very much if you could, now if you're a musician or a budding musician, I strongly advise get a YouTube channel. It doesn't cost you anything. And then as you're creating whatever to share to people, it's a really, really great way as a musician to network. Partially I'm saying that to you because I want you to have a YouTube channel so that you can network with me. That benefits me. It can benefit you as well. And it's not an overly commercial concept or anything like that. It's just a great networking tool. So get yourself a YouTube account and subscribe to my YouTube channel. I'll subscribe back to your YouTube channel, and that helps support each other. You put something up that you're proud of, that you've just worked out or whatever, record it and put it on YouTube, and you might say, hey, look, I did this lesson, this is how I'm going. If you put that video up, I can have a look at that and go, that's really, really good. You might want to just for the next week or so work on certain things. So I'm more than happy to give that kind of feedback if that's what you want. So get yourself a YouTube account, subscribe, and like my channel, like my videos and that sort of thing, because that helps me out. I think that's about it. I think we've covered everything. Your guitar is tuned. Go forth and make beautiful music. Thanks. Bye.